Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. This week I'm taking a look at a sort of casual hack-and-slash RPG/RTS light. Developed and published by 10 Tons Limited, Undead Horde was released back in May of 2019. Undead Horde is a sort of hack-and-slash RPG with light RTS elements, as I mentioned, as you play a Necromancer who can reanimate your enemies and send them against your foes. It allows you to build up an expendable army, increase your abilities as you level up, as well as select gear to focus on different styles of combat or areas of effectiveness. That having been said, it's not exactly very deep. In terms of plot, you are an undead necromancer, once locked away by the forces of good. By chance, a random chicken has disturbed a seal on the vessel you were locked away in, and you reanimate into the world. You then proceed to work your way up, killing chickens, peasants, and more, and reanimating them into your service, to eventually retake the land from the living. Gameplay is simple, combining elements of overhead hack-and-slash style action RPGs from the Diablo-style genre, with randomized item drops, and a certain degree of RTS-style troop management, where you reanimate creatures to face off against enemy troops, and eventually find and tear down enemy buildings, which in turn seem to produce their own flow of troops for you to face if they're left alone. The interface befits how simple the game is overall. In the upper left corner is a collection of meters. The left side of the sphere represents health, the right side mana, which is used to activate staves and trinkets. Surrounding it is your command gauge. Your command stat limits how many creatures you can reanimate and command, with tougher reanimations taking more command points to do. Below this is your experience bar, which will increment your level once it's filled. On the upper right is your gear/command list. When it's not expanded, you have your gold indicated on the top, your weapon on the left, and your equipped staff on the right. Weapons are your basic melee attack capability, while the staff represents your equipped offensive spell. Below this are 2 trinkets or ring slots. These can be activated for special effects, usually some sort of buff for your minions. You can expand this to show your inventory and other equipable slots. You can carry 16 items beyond what you have equipped, and aside from your weapon, staff, and rings, you can also equip a book, an amulet, and a skull. These 3 slots offer passive bonuses to you or your troops. When the inventory is open, there is also a quick sale button that allows you to quickly change out unneeded items for gold. Mousing over any particular item shows what it does, how much damage weapons do, etc., and they generally follow a sort of prefix and suffix style of naming convention that gives a clue as to their overall power of the item in question. Different weapons do have different speeds, so the overall DPS may not paint the whole picture depending on what you're set to attack and what your style is. The final part of the interface is the overall map in the lower right. This shows the mini-map as well as how many enemy buildings remain. You can also access the world map from here. The world map shows the various areas of the current era of the overworld, as well as the stats for area control below. Each of the areas on the world map has its own battle map, and they are linked both by nodes on the world map and by in-map transitions. Some maps contain nodes to the vein network that, when unlocked, can allow for travel between other nodes. In this way, you can revisit previous eras rather rapidly to finish off things you missed or to finish off quests. In terms of stats, the Necromancer has a level, based on experience earned, then health and mana pools which accrue based on level, upgrades, and equipped gear. There is a damage bonus that is gained from upgrades and gear, and a command cap which, once again, a combination of upgrades and gear sets you at. Critical chance details what % chance you have to critically strike something, and then there's the total worth of your character's gear, which can be a good barometer for how well equipped you are. The experience needed for each level is listed next. Under this, there's the Horde Stats, which basically consolidate all the details of your horde into one easy-to-reference group. There's the DPS estimate, which may be way off depending on your horde's attacks versus what they're attacking, then the average hit point total of each creature. This is slightly less than useful if you've got a variety of different creatures raised. The total hit points is slightly more useful, being a total of all the hit points of your currently raised creatures. Then there's the average command value and total command value. A button here allows you to easily banish the weakest creature in your army, which can be useful for clearing out command points to animate a tempting target that you come across in the field. Also on the stat screen, you can view your quest log in case you need details on what you have left to do, and then upgrade your character during level ups. Rather than having some stats to distribute, you get a random choice of 3 cards. Each one adds a different amount of health, damage, command points, and mana points. In this way, you can somewhat direct your character's growth, but like a certain other game that I recently covered, it's pretty dependent on RNG as a result. In terms of gameplay, once you're in an area, you move around with the WASD keys and can press spacebar to toggle whether your minions are following you or on the attack. You can also left-click to execute a melee attack and right-click to activate whatever staff you have equipped. Your rings are bound to 1 and 2, allowing you to activate them on the fly relatively quickly. Extremely simple all in all, like many Diablo-esque action RPGs are. In each map, you can talk to undead NPCs that are appropriately marked with quest indicators. You can also attack living creatures and their habitats. Living creatures tend to gather in troop teams resembling an RTS game and patrol within set areas. Furthermore, if you leave the houses, shops, and so forth of the living out on the map, they will eventually spawn more troops, so you'll want to take those down when it comes to clearing an area. You can also find various defense towers that are a pain and fire upon you while you're trying to destroy them. Maps usually have a deed which awards control over that area once you claim it and prevents creatures from reappearing. As you kill creatures on the map, their bodies remain on the floor, and anytime you may attempt to reanimate them with the reanimate ability. This adds them to your horde, although it is on a timer so you can't necessarily spam it non-stop, and unless you have a particular passive that keeps it from doing so, you may be interrupted by enemy attacks. If your command cap has enough spare points to reanimate something, it is indicated by a yellow skull on the map, so you can easily see whether you can add something to your horde, which is quite useful in battle when things are pretty hectic. Gold, items, and mana orbs can sometimes drop when you smash buildings and various items on the map, like barrels or vases, similar to a lot of games in the genre, which can incentivize clearing a map of such debris. Mana orbs will instantly replenish your mana, although it does replenish naturally over time. You can also uncover various levers to open doors, pools to restore health, chests that contain more items, and so on. It should be noted that when you get low on health or have no minions to protect you, you do get a temporary shield to try to get out of combat. If you continue to take damage once this drops, however, you can be slain and respawn back in the crypt. Which brings us to the crypt itself. You start with just the Crypt Keeper, a portal to the Vein network, and a healing pool here, although there are a lot of locked statues as well. As you proceed through the game, you'll get more NPCs here, including a commander that you can turn in quests and deeds to, and then various shopkeepers that sell particular items in their specialties. You can upgrade each of these shopkeepers by giving them gold, which replenishes their shop and allows purchase of higher level items, and you can also pay tribute that allows you to get a new selection of items and improve the chances of rarer items. However, in the crypt there's also the summoning statues. Once you kill a certain number of a particular type of creature, this unlocks that creature's statue and allows you to summon undead of that creature type for free before leaving the crypt. This ensures that you are never without an army, which can be a problem if you lose it on a particular map while other maps are cleared. Also available in the crypt at first is the Statue of Sacrifice, which basically sacrifices your lowest standing creature similar to the button available in the Stat tab. And there is a slab that allows you to check out your total world stats and progressions so far. Graphically, the game uses a low poly aesthetic and a mobile style interface that, it's not terrible. It's yet another mobile port from the looks of it, but it could be worse. I actually kind of liked the music in this one. It's not outstanding, but at least it had a decent overall feel to it that made it interesting to listen to, at least at first, and I'll get on that in a second. Where the real issue came in was with the gameplay itself. Now, it doesn't mean it's unresponsive or anything. The game worked perfectly well for what it was, but the gameplay loop is repetitive. Don't get me wrong, the simplistic premise is a fair amount going for it. With the different types of creatures that you can raise as your minions, the way that you can pick different weapon and gear combinations to promote different styles of play, it actually has a fair degree of customizability for what it is. You can focus on increasing your Necromancer's personal effectiveness in combat, focus on his spells and mana, focus on your minions, even focus on different types of troops, say human troops over animals or vice versa. You can select gear that gives your troops better hit points to allow them to soak damage while you use spells from afar, or just things that'll boost your spell damage, that sort of thing. The problem here is that the game is extremely repetitive, and what is available is not all that deep. For instance, spells are extremely similar to one another, basically varying in area of effect. Quests are almost universally go here, do this thing, or go here, kill this thing, which is about par for the genre, but does get old. Almost every map's exploration consists of just wandering around methodically killing everything like you would in an RTS, and although the army composition is interesting at first, the ability to raise even named enemies as your servants is useful, there's a certain lack of ability to easily repair your minions, and you can't really set aside named NPCs that you've raised for later, so it kind of makes the enemy management portion, or the army management portion of this, an exercise in spamming raise undead over whatever's available, or just going back to the crypt to refill your troop numbers every few minutes without having to worry about losing them, really. The world itself kind of loops like you should have choices on where you go next and what to do, but I found that the number of quests are dependent on ones that you've already filled, at least at first, which means that you're eventually just going to work your way through all the quests, whether you like it or not, or at least almost all of them. There are a few side quests and secrets to be found, but perhaps not as much as I might like, given the overworld map, about the same sort of optional feel as an RTS campaign map. I mean, yeah, sure, you get a choice of 2 to 3 places to go from a particular node, but chances are good you're going to eventually go to all 3 of them, so it's really just a choice on when you want to do it. Furthermore, the writing tends to try to be humorous, but I find it misses more than it hits. The jokes and gags and references seem more like they're in there because they're expected to be, rather than they're in there because somebody got inspired to put them in. In the end, I ended up playing Undead Horde for longer than I thought I would, but I can't honestly say that I had a ton of fun with it. A while into the game, I really started feeling like it was a chore, and yet it had this compulsive nature in it to try to get more loot or try to unlock a particular statue that kept me playing longer than I really wanted to. I think this is one of those mobile port games that just functions better on a mobile than on a full PC game, as it can be fun, but only in short bursts without feeling like an overall slog. Undead Horde has an interesting premise and some potential, and tries to mix a few genres in a new way, but I feel like if you want to really try it out, you're probably better off checking your local mobile app store rather than getting it on the PC, unless you find it on sale or as part of a bundle. Or, if you want to spend some mindless time just marching around with an army of skeletons, spot killing everything in sight, which I admit can be fun on occasion. Anyway, I will put a link to where you can pick this up below. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Undead Horde. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye.